Hi everyone. So just to follow on from the previous video looking at Crea, where we were looking at kind of design ideation, fast image generation, and things like that, I now want to introduce you to another tool that's a bit more architecture specific. So this one's called LookX. It's previously called Xcall. It's now called LookX. Again, this also has a free option. You can actually get 100 credits for free. And in fact, if I scroll down here on the homepage, you can actually get a bit of a preview of the type of stuff you can do with this. So it has a kind of architecture design library built in. There are plugins available for SketchUp, Rhino, and I believe Revit is coming shortly for that. If it's just SketchUp and Rhino for now. So for instance, you could do kind of massing models, and you can type in a prompt just like we did in Crea, and it will try and visualize it based on your geometry. You can train your own AIs. So for instance, if you had a series of sketches or a series of renders that you've produced, you could train the AI to only use those images, and it will only output in that style, which is fantastic. So again, there's a number of different interesting things here. You can increase the resolution of your images. There's a vocabulary template as well. So again, if English isn't your first language, for instance, if you're still learning architectural terminology, or even if you're like a BA1 student and you're still getting to grips with, what does what, which is absolutely fine. This can actually help you kind of understand what things are and what they do. So it's a really, really nice set of tools to have. Now, slightly less boring. If I scroll right to the top, annoyingly, I can't drag the little slider, so I need to scroll. If I go right back to the top, you'll see if I click on pricing, there are various subscriptions. So if you sign up for a free account, you do get 100 credits completely for free, which is pretty cool. And I would recommend that that's what you start with for today. Again, you could do a monthly subscription, $20 per month. And again, you can quit at any time. So it's up to you if you want to do that as part of your team today, if you're working in a team. But instead, I'm going to just go back to start using LookX, just up here. Once I click on this brings me to the kind of main panel. I still need to log in. So I'm going to click on Get Started for Free in the top right. It's going to ask me to sign in with a Google account. If you haven't signed in before, click on the little tiny purple sign up button. There we go. So I've just created an account and signed in. You'll see I've got over 1,000 credits on mine because I've done this way too many times. But if you're signing up for the first time, it should pop up with a little window that says, do you want to do a questionnaire to earn 100 credits? It will take you about 30 seconds to do it, and then you'll get your 100 credits for free for image generations. And one image to generate is 1 credit. So it's quite straightforward. So it means you get to generate 100 images in this before you need to pay for anything. So I've signed up. I've of course done many, many questionnaires now, and I've got 1,000 credits. I am now going to start using the software. Now, if you followed a previous video of mine, you'd have seen that I've gone through all the creations plaza and everything where you can see what other people have generated. In fact, here's a previous image that I worked on. So the cool thing with this is I can upload a sketch, something like this. And by typing in a prompt, kind of like what we have over here, just on the right, if I type in a prompt, I can specify a model, just like we did in Crea. I can specify a style or a LoRa, just like what we did in Crea. And by combining these things together with something a bit more structured, like a sketch, something where we've got clear geometry, we can tell it to closely follow that sketch to generate an output. And this is where we can start combining AI with stuff that we're designing. So that's seriously, seriously cool stuff. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So I'm just going to close this one. I'm going to come back to home. And the interface has changed since my previous videos, but luckily it's actually a bit easier to do now, more than anything. And straight from the home page, you'll see you've got image generation Gen 2. And if you look at the image, you'll see it's kind of got like a 3D model kind of style, and then it's rendering over the top of it. Well, that's effectively what we want to do, either with a sketch or a massing model or physical model. We want to turn that into a rendered image. So I'm going to click on this one. Now, the cool thing about this is it's going to ask me for a base image So that would be, for instance, my sketch or my 3D model or my physical model, the thing that I want to render or turn into something new. So I would simply just upload something here. I could use my bear, for instance, if I wanted to. I've already got some sketches that I've just done with another workshop. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to upload a little image just here. It's one that I found online. So if you are the copyright owner and if you're not happy with me using this, please let me know. I'll take it down. But it did say it was open source. So I'm going to use this one. Looks like an AI generated image to me anyway. I don't think that's actually a real sketch. But the cool thing with this is I can use this to structure my image. As long as I've got some quite clean lines to follow, I can use this to structure my next image. So now I could choose style. Or instead of typing in a style, I could simply type in a prompt over here on the right. Now, something to be careful of, and this was the very first time I used the new LookX style. I looked over here and I completely ignored this semi-transparent word that says negative prompt. And just above it does say exclude. What you'll find is the main prompt that you want to create goes down the bottom. Anything that you don't want to appear should go over here on the right. And then I can choose how closely I want it to follow the original image, like the structure of the image over here by the rendering type. So if I choose precise, it's going to accurately follow all of the line work. If I choose creative, it's going to loosely interpret it and maybe add new things in, new artifacts, maybe some more trees, for instance. And if I choose balance, it will kind of do a hybrid of the two. It will do it somewhere in the middle. So I'm not going to add a style in just yet, but let's say I'm going to do house surrounded by trees. House is made from wood and glass. Something very, very basic for now. Now just underneath this as well, underneath the prompt, I've got the number of creations. I want this to generate quite fast. So I'm going to just do a single creation now, preserve my credits. You see it tells me how many credits it's going to use down here. If there's anything that I didn't want to appear, for instance, maybe I don't want there to be birds in it, maybe I don't want there to be people in it, I would type those into my negative prompt over here on the right. Now I'm going to choose this to be creative. I'm going to click on generate. And again, I'm not actually on a paid plan right now. I'm just on a free plan. And you see that that's added me to a queue. So there's 10 people ahead of me and it says I need to wait very patiently. So I'm going to do that unless I want to pay money. So let's look at this back in a second. So the queue has reached the end. You see it's now got this kind of purpley thing going around the edge, which means it's generating the image. And this should hopefully pop out any minute. Oh, it doesn't look great, does it? So you can see it's quite different to Kriya. So, you know, I can almost see that the composition is kind of similar in a way. Like the building itself, completely different, of course. You know, it's not followed this structure well at all. In fairness, I did tell it to be creative. I didn't tell it to be precise. I did tell it to add trees around it, which it's done, but it's still not quite what I want it to do. So what we can actually do now is start combining two AIs. And this is why I wanted to show you Kriya first. So what I can do, I can generate a reference image in Kriya. Still got my giant teddy bears. Let's delete this prompt. And let's say, for instance, there we go, got a tank again, see. Let's say I want to do a cabin, in fact, a wood cabin with big glass windows, modern, surrounded by trees in the autumn. There we go, something like that. What I would do, I would try and find one with a kind of similar composition, something like this. That looks quite nice, quite like that as an image. So I'm going to download this, and I'm going to use this image here, these types of colors, these materials, this similar composition. I'm going to use that as a reference image and see if we can apply that to this building. So this time, where I've got my base image, that's the thing that's going to generate my structure. I'm going to now click on Style. I'm going to upload a new image. I'm going to choose the one I just created. So that's going to add my style. I'm going to click on precise because I want it to precisely follow the base image. And I'm going to click on generate again. And I'm again going to join the queue, this time at position number 7 instead of 10. And again, I'm going to have to wait patiently for 5 to 10 minutes potentially for this. There we go. So through the power of editing, we've just been able to skip the queue. So I think if we just take a bit of a closer look at that, it's actually kind of interesting. We can see the comparison. We can see it's definitely followed the geometry quite well from the original sketch. But this is also part of the problem. So because we haven't cleaned up the original drawing, and because it's a pencil sketch, it's trying to pick up every single line. And it doesn't know what's necessarily the outline of a building and what's not, particularly, for instance, in areas such as these. So this is one of the big problems we've got. The drawing itself is a little bit too complex. And because we set our render mode to precise, it doesn't know how to outline the building well. I think the other part of this as well is also down to the prompt, because all we said here was house surrounded by trees, house is made from wood and glass. So I think what we could probably do is kind of go for the middle approach with this. We want it to follow the stronger outlines as best as it can, but we also want it to leave a bit up to interpretation. But I think we can also guide the style a little bit as well. So again, we've got the base image, we've got the style, we've got the house surrounded by trees, house is made from wood and glass. Now I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm going to change this to balanced mode. And I'm just going to edit this prompt. So I think let's kind of try and rationalize this as best as we can. So I think architectural render, because that's what the original reference is. It's a building that we're rendering. Let's say we have a landscape. I want it to be realistic. It's in the autumn. We want red and brown trees. A wood facade with black detailing and glass windows. So I think something like that should give us something much, much closer to what we're trying to produce. Because now we're more accurately describing the reference image. We're still keeping it there to kind of cement the style in. We're telling it how closely we want to reference the original geometry. And I'm guessing if we were to generate a couple of these now, this should give us what we've been looking for. This should be absolutely bang on, or much, much closer to the style that we're looking to produce. So that's generating now, and that should pop up hopefully any minute. There we go. That's just finished completing. I think we can all agree that looks way, way closer to what we're trying to create. I think the key thing with this is because we're still on Gen 2, same as before. But I think when we had it on creative, like the first one, it kind of tried to do its own interpretation. So we lost the geometry of the building. When we tried to do the second one, this one was set to precise. So it was trying too hard to follow the sketch, and it's trying to pick up like pencil lines, and it's trying to combine pencil lines into a render style. So it's not quite sure how to follow it. But by going to the kind of Goldilocks zone, the balance, the just right area, it kind of combines the two. So it picks up the geometry of the line work, but then it also still makes it nice and clean, and it knows you want to produce a render like the reference image that we had. So if we have the reference image there, you know, very kind of similar styles, they're not too far off at all. But I think if we do a bit of a comparison now, just to see how well this fits, that is pretty fantastic. I think we can all agree. And I think a big part of this as well, it also comes down to the prompt that we're using. So after choosing rendering and balance, I've added this prompt in down the bottom. So you got the default part that's already there. So architectural render, building landscape realistic. You may need to delete some elements there as well. But for me, choosing autumn, red and brown trees, wood facade, black detailing, glass windows, just to help visually describe the reference image. You know, it's not going to hurt. And I think that's really picked up on those elements then. because you're telling the AI what you're trying to achieve with this. And I think this looks spot on. I'm happy with this. We've got a second reference here as well, which again also fits the geometry fairly well. It's a different interpretation of it. But yeah, it's pretty decent. I'm happy with these. Much closer to what I was looking to create. So again, I could now choose to upscale these, or I could choose to download them. All depends on the account that you've got. If I were to click on HD, for instance, I could choose a 2x upscale, or I could choose a 4x upscale, depending on the quality that I want. For a single credit, I'll say it's probably worth doing a 2x upscale at least, just to see what that comes out like. In fact, you know what? Let's click it. So that's going to add that to the queue. But in the meantime, I'd probably just go ahead and download that. Let's download the other one as well, just so we've got it. And I'm just going to open that up. That's just opened up on a different screen for me. Let's bring that down. Not bad. Really not bad. I think I do prefer the other image though. This one here. Yeah, that's the one for me. That looks much closer to what I'll be looking to achieve with this. So yeah, so essentially that is LookX. It's all about finding balance, I think. You know, make sure you get your base sketch in there correctly. Get it as clean as you can. I mean, I'm probably left with some artifacts, so I would, again, clean this up in Photoshop first. You can use Crea or any open source images to find a reference image, a style that you want to create. Do your best to describe your reference image in the prompt. Write out any parts that you want to exclude. So in this case, could be organic forms. It could be, you know, cityscapes. It could be anything. And then the key thing here is just make sure you're using Gen 2 and go for the balanced option. As long as you choose that, you should get a pretty good looking result based on something you've designed. Thank you very much. I'm going to leave that there for today. And I think we're going to now move across to Adobe Express. So I'll see you in the next video.